everybody. So we've built out a very basic 2D game engine. We have a character who can walk around. We have some tiles drawn that he can walk around on. Now I want to give him something to do, and we'll start looking at some code, and we'll create some variables to keep track of information about our game. So specifically, let's start by going to the player code and maybe creating some things that we could keep track of to show our progress and show how good or bad we're doing. So I'm going to add 2 numbers to our player. I'll give him a variable called health, which will keep track of, if we've taken damage or something. So I'll give him a public integer health, and I'll give him a public integer let's do money. Could be score, could be money, could be anything. But basically what I'll do is we'll start and we'll set this health equal to 100 when we start the game. And we'll start and we'll set money equals to 0. So this is the initialized value. This is the value that our health is going to start equal to 100. Our money is going to start equal to 0. If I go into my game, I'll be able to see that. So I've saved this code. This green bar here means my code is saved. This code is already in my player. I got to that code by clicking on it in my player controller. Now we can see in my player controller I have 0 health and 0 money. Now I thought I had set it to start at 100, but maybe that's not going to work. Oh well, I could just start by setting it 100 here. That would start with my health at 100. One other thing I could do is because, I know I didn't set. It's because it was already created in this code, and it was public, and it was set here as 0, and then when I uploaded the variable, it didn't update. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Basically, we can set our health here. Another way to make sure it sets correctly is if I go in to start, I could say, when the game starts, my health should be 100, my money should be 0. So when the game starts, my health will go to 100, and my money will go to 0. So now, even if I have some weird game state, my money, let's say, is like 67, and my health is, let's say, like blah, blah, blah. When I start my game, when my game starts, when I press play, my health and money will set to the values that we want them to start at. So I have 2 variables now. They're keeping track of 2 different things, my health and my money. Right now, we don't have anything in the game to change those variables. So let's do that. I'm going to add a random item, and I'll call it 2D object, sprites. Let's grab a square, and I'll put it on layer 1. I'm just going to make it orange, and we'll call this lava. Lava. And lava will make it so that when we touch it, it will hurt our player. Right now, if I touch this lava, it does not hurt our player. So to make that work, we need to do a couple of things. We need some code in our player that allows us to change our health, which I'll set back to the correct numbers. And we could also use like a coin. So maybe I'll throw a coin in. We'll do the same thing for the coin. I'll do a 2D object, sprites, circle. I'll put this on layer 1 so I can see it. I'll make it yellow so it looks more like a coin. Maybe I'll make it a little smaller. And we'll do the same thing. So this one, when we touch it, it will lower our health. And this one, when we touch it, it will give us some money. So let's go back to our player, and let's go into our player code, and let's write some code that will make it so that we lose health when we touch that thing, or we get money. So that code is going to be on, we're going to have a, let's say public just in case. Let's do public void on trigger enter 2D. So this is a function. This is the code that's going to run when we enter a trigger. When our player's collider touches another 2D collider that is a trigger, this function will always run. And in this function, we'll check if the collision.gameObject.tag is coin. So if the tag is coin, we'll do collision.gameObject.setActive is false, so we'll turn that coin off, and we'll do money plus equals 1. So now, what this code does is it's a public code, so it's like accessible from other game objects. I don't think it needs to be public. I could probably set this to private. Public, private, doesn't matter. If anything's broken, setting it to public will usually make it work. It's something to learn later on. Void just means that this function doesn't send an output, so it doesn't return any value. So some functions might like return the number 1. This function doesn't have a return value, so we say void. This word right here, the second word, is always going to be what kind of value it returns. And then onTriggerEnter2D is the name of the function. It's, a Unity function, so it's being called by the Unity engine when our collider enters a collider that's a trigger. Once this code runs, it's going to check if the collider we're touching is tagged with coin. If it is tagged with coin, it's going to run any code in between these two curly braces. So if we collide with something, if that thing is tagged with coin, then that thing is going to be false. It's going to set active false. It's going to deactivate. It's going to disappear. That's like us collecting the coin. And our money will increase by 1. Let's test this first, and then we'll probably do another one to make our health go down if we touch something else. And actually, we're gonna make that code a lot more complicated. But let's start with this coin. So when I walk over to this coin, I'm gonna have a few problems. And as I have these problems, try to think about what the code says should happen. So when I touch this coin, I go right through it. So let's think about the code. I don't know what's wrong with it. I know. We could use something called debug statements to see where our code is failing. So I'm going to go into my code, and I'm going to write 2 debug statements. I'm going to write one in onTriggerEnter2D. So this is going to be debug. So now we're writing 2 debug statements. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So we saw that touching this coin did not work. Nothing's happening here. So to test why our code's not working, let's write some debug statements. These debug statements will help us tell which code is being run. So we're going to write debug.log. And we'll do a little message here. We'll say, our player has touched a collider that is a trigger. So this line of code is going to run when this function runs. It'll run everything inside of the function. But this code in here will only run when this function runs if the thing we're colliding with is tagged with coins. So we'll say debug.log. Our player has touched a collider that has a coin tag. So now, depending on what messages we see, maybe we'll be able to tell a little bit more about what's happening. So let's test this again, and let's see which of these messages come up when we touch our coin. If any at all. So I run my game. I walk over to my coin, and let's check my console. There's nothing in here. There's no messages in my debug console. Maybe messages might show up. I might need to click these to view my messages, these little buttons here. But I don't have any debug messages from my code. So I need to think about what is going on so that I can maybe figure out where my code is messing up. So onTriggerEnter2D, this line of code is not running. This runs anytime I enter a 2D trigger. So, I see the problem. We never gave a collider to this coin. Let's add a component to this coin. Let's give it a collider. I'll give it a circle collider 2D. Make sure it's a 2D collider or it will not work. And I'll give it a isTrigger. Now, when I walk into this coin, my collider should realize that it's touching a trigger, and our code should work. Let's see. Okay, our player has touched a collider that's a trigger. Tag coin is not defined. We never made a coin tag. So tags are really useful. They can let us add properties to different things. I didn't have to add any code to this coin. I could just tag it by going to the coin, which I'll actually name coin. I should have done that earlier. And I'll add a tag, and I'll call it coin. And now I have a coin tag in my game. I can click on my coin, which is not named coin for some reason, even though I just named it coin. And I can give it my coin tag, and now my code should finally actually work. So I touch my coin. Okay, and our player has touched a collider that has a coin tag, and if I click on my player, I'll see his money variable has gone up by 1. So now he has $1. Now there's a few more things I could do. I could hit Control-C, Control-V, and I could make a bunch of copies of this coin, and I could put coins all over my map to collect. An easier way to make lots of copies of something, and also to be able to change them, is to make a prefab. We're going to make a prefab of a coin. We're going to create a folder. We're going to call it prefabs. And we're going to throw our coin into our prefab folder. One more thing we should do is we're going to make our code a little bit more complicated for this coin interaction. Instead of money plus equals 1, we're going to say, gain. We're going to say gain money, and we're going to say 1. Now what gain money is going to do, right now it's an error. This is trying to run a function. We haven't created a function called gain money, but we can create a function called, public, which lets it get called from other code in different places. Void, meaning it's not going to have an output. Gain money, and then int amount. So int amount is how much money we're going to gain. And now instead of just being able to gain $1, I can gain different amounts of money based on all sorts of different things. For now, we're just going to leave it at $1. But this is going to say money plus equals amount. And spoiler alert, we're going to use this later. Let's make a lose money function. Lose money. And that's going to be money minus equals amount. Plus equals is adding this amount to however much money is. So if money is 0, it's going to be, we're going to add the amount to the money. For this one, we're subtracting this amount from the money. Lose money is going to subtract that amount from the money. Gain money will add that amount. So when we touch a coin, we'll gain money 1. We can add other events to the game that give us different amounts of money. Later, we can maybe make more complicated coins if we want to maybe make different, denominations of money. There's all kinds of complicated things we can do. But this coin is working for now. Let's add the other interaction we wanted. Let's add a tag for damage. Let's say if collision dot game object dot compare tag. Let's say it's a hurt box. If we touch something that's tagged with hurt box, we'll say health minus equals, let's say 5. Health minus equals 5. Why not? So now let's try and see if our lava works too. Spoiler alert, and to make it a shorter video, our lava doesn't work yet. We need to add a few things to our lava. We never gave it a hurtbox tag, so we're going to go to our lava. We're going to add tag. We're going to say hurtbox. And we're going to give it a collider. And we're going to give it a box collider 2D because it's kind of rectangular. Now when I touch my lava, my health's going to go down. But we are going to have a new problem. Our new problem is that my health's going to go down, but it's not going to go down by 5. If we look at my health variable here, when I touch the lava, oh, I didn't set this collider to a trigger. This collider needs to be a trigger. If I bump straight into it, it means that it's not a trigger. So if I look at my player, if I look at my health variable, it says 100 right now. And if I touch this lava, which didn't work, it's detecting a trigger. Our lava is not tagged. I forgot to put a tag on it. Hurtbox. So now our lava is tagged as hurtbox, and my player they did lose exactly 5 health. That's perfect. It's working exactly the way we want. Now the downside of this is that once I touch it once, it'll never hurt me again. Until I leave it and come back in. But for now, that could be just how the game works, and that'll be fine. And maybe we'll have some enemies, and, you know, a bullet will go through you, and it'll hit you once, you know, and everything will just be able to hit you one time. Maybe we'll add some stuff like that, but for now we have this coin, we have this lava. I could start maybe making a prefab of this lava as well. Maybe I throw that into my prefabs folder. And maybe we have some kind of obstacle related to that. Maybe I can give myself a dodge roll so I can, like, dodge through the lava. Maybe I can, you know, do stuff like that. We'll see for next time. But for now, all we want is to be able to change the variables in the game. And actually, this has been a 60-minute video, but we can actually start on UI. We can start adding things to the game to be able to view the variables that we're setting in the UI. Let's do that in the next video. We'll do UI in the next video.